I can't go on with the labor pains starting. Yet, despite this, the sister-in-law said, "It's okay, the baby won't be born right away. Please take good care of my 3 kids for 6 days." And off she went on a trip, forcing her own 3 kids onto me. Taking care of the naughty kids, the interval between pains gradually shortened. I'm in trouble. What should I do? Although it was hard even to stand, the children made a big fuss saying, "We're hungry." In the midst of all this, suddenly I was struck by intense labor pains. The pain was so intense that I couldn't even call an ambulance, and I collapsed, consciousness fading. At that moment, it felt like someone was calling my name. I am Emily, a 32-year-old housewife, living with the parents of my childhood friend turned husband, Tim. While many people might pity me for living with my in-laws, I had no resistance to it because they had been kind to me since I was a child. Thank you so much, Emily-chan, really. You're just like my own daughter. Thank you very much as well. Being so kind to me, a daughter-in-law. My in-laws always express words of gratitude towards me. However, amidst the overflowing happiness of married life, only the existence of my brother-in-law's wife bothered me. Don't get cocky just because you're the eldest son's wife. I have no such intention at all. Humph. I can't stand that complacent attitude of yours either. You're after my father-in-law's assets, aren't you? While it's true that my in-laws are wealthy, it's not certain that my husband, their eldest son, will inherit everything. Yet, my sister-in-law seemed to have convinced herself that I married into the family for the inheritance. Consequently, my sister-in-law who lived nearby would often come to our house to compete with me. Father-in-law, mother-in-law. I'll make tea instead of Emily. Oh, Catherine, you shouldn't have. Emily only ever serves tea, right? I brought some delicious Japanese sweets. Then my sister-in-law looked at me and smirked triumphantly. Though I had no intention of competing with her, she took an attitude of keeping me in check and always played the good wife in front of other family members. So I resigned myself to patience, telling myself that as long as everyone got along, it was fine. My sister-in-law had 3 children and she seemed very proud. She brought them to her parents' home as if she flaunted them in front of me, who had yet to become pregnant. All the children, including the eldest son, who was 5, were boys, and all at the age where they were full of mischief. Each visit to our home resulted in a rampage, with various things getting broken, which was a problem. However, because I had no child, there was also envy towards such a sister-in-law. Even though you're the eldest son's wife, you're useless if you can't have children, laughs. We have 3 sons, so our child is guaranteed to be the heir here. Lucky us. My sister-in-law, who looked down on me with a smug smirk, tensed when she learned of my pregnancy. My husband, of course, and my in-laws and brother-in-law were all delighted. But only my sister-in-law, with a bitter expression, ungroundedly asserted, "It's bound to be a girl." After that, she also tried to leave her child at our house. But my mother-in-law kindly refused, saying, "Now is an important time." I was relieved, but it seemed to intensify my sister-in-law's hatred towards me. Once it was known that the child in my belly was a boy. As I entered a stable period, the actions of my flustered sister-in-law became increasingly radical. You may be aiming for the heir of this house, but it won't go as you plan. A shiver ran down my spine when my sister-in-law, with a face like a demon, whispered this into my ear. I wasn't particularly obsessed with the gender of my child, but her ominous words gave me an unpleasant premonition. One day, while I was cleaning my in-laws' room, my sister-in-law, who visits as usual, interfered assertively. "I'll clean the room for Dad and Mom. I must clean it nicely." She took the cleaning tools from me and began to clean to show off at me. That alone would have been fine, but, "Emily, come here. Help me, quick." What? What happened? "I want to wipe the floor under the sofa, so let's move it. I'll lift this side, so you lift that side." I instinctively moved to help but remembered that as a pregnant woman, I should not lift heavy things, and I refused. My sister-in-law clicked her tongue in annoyance. Moreover, when I tried to go down from the second floor to the first floor, my sister-in-law, who was on the stairs, bumped into me vigorously. I nearly fell, but I managed to grasp the handrail with both hands and avert danger. Oh, sorry. Although she pretended to apologize, my sister-in-law had a frustrated expression on her face. Is she targeting my unborn child? Filled with anxiety, I took certain measures in case of an emergency. The thing I feared happened after I entered the final month of pregnancy. The due date was approaching, and one day, the mother-in-law had to leave the house for a few days to take care of a relative who fell ill. I'm worried about leaving you, Emily, especially now that you're in your final month. Mother-in-law. It seems to still be all right, so please go without worrying. At that time, I thought everything would be fine since the due date was still ahead. However, it seems Catherine got wind of the mother-in-law being away and brought her 3 children to the in-laws' house on the day she left. Hey, Emily. I'm going on a trip starting today. So, take care of the kids. That's going to be a problem. Mother-in-law is not here right now. But you're here, aren't you? Actually, I've been feeling contractions since a little while ago. It might be labor, so I'm preparing to be admitted to the hospital now. So, I can't help you. The moment she heard that, Catherine, wearing an eerie smile, said, "Oh, has your labor started? Kids don't get born that easily. Everyone from my house is on a business trip today. So I'll be in trouble if you don't look after them. Don't be unreasonable. What's impossible is impossible. Ahaha. Take good care of my children, okay? Wait a minute." Ignoring my words, Catherine pushed me, who was standing in front of the door, and went out. While taking care of her children who began to cry saying they were hungry, I was suddenly hit by intense labor pains. I tried to call an ambulance but collapsed due to the unbearable pain. Emily, hang in there. I felt like I heard the mother-in-law's voice as my consciousness was fading. I woke up to the pain of contractions coming every 3 minutes. I heard the sound of an ambulance siren, and there was my mother-in-law beside me. Mother-in-law, why did you come back? We'll talk later. Emily, you have to be strong for the baby in your belly. It seems that the mother-in-law asked the father-in-law to take care of Catherine's children. Afterwards, I was rushed to the maternity clinic where I had been going and was able to give birth to a boy without any issues. Holding my adorable child to my chest, I felt truly relieved. It was good to have come back to the house just in case. According to the mother-in-law, on the way to the relative's house, she spotted Catherine walking amicably with an unknown man. Becoming suspicious upon seeing the large travel bag, she covertly approached, and I only heard unbelievable words from Catherine. I dumped the kids on my pregnant sister-in-law. I don't care even if her labor has started. Shocked upon hearing this, the mother-in-law hurried back and found me collapsed, calling an ambulance for me. I'm so glad the baby is safe. Once again, I thanked the mother-in-law. 6 days after being discharged, when I was at home, I received a call from Catherine, who had returned from her trip without a shred of guilt on her face. Thanks for babysitting, I'm coming to pick up the kids now, and she unilaterally hung up the phone. Assuming that neither the mother-in-law nor her husband were back yet, Catherine arrived humming a tune. Thanks for watching the kids. Seeing the 2 people who should not be there waiting, she momentarily showed a shocked expression. Why are you here? The brother-in-law speaks without knowing about the trip. I didn't hear anything about the trip. Who have you been going with and where until now? Well, my mom is back home, you see. She suddenly got sick, so I went to take care of her. I couldn't take the children because your mother wasn't there. I had no choice but to leave them with Emily. The sister-in-law persisted in playing innocent, and mother-in-law amiably said, That's odd, isn't it? I saw you with a man you claimed not to know. You were holding a big bag. What, you saw me, mother-in-law? The sister-in-law's eyes widened almost to the point of overflowing. He's my cousin. Is that so? You seemed quite close though. Even so, what were you thinking with leaving your 3 children with Emily? Who said she might have started labor pains, that is? It's because Emily said she would take care of them. There's no way I said that. Then, the sister-in-law suddenly points at me and starts making a fuss, saying, "This is a conspiracy. She's a big liar. I have been putting up with Emily's harassment all this time. It was unbearable. Please kick her out." Crying her eyes out and gesturing emphatically, the sister-in-law makes her case to the family, acting like a veritable drama queen. The mother-in-law and the sister-in-law's husband can only wear baffled expressions. Although I am the one who has been harassed, if I argue back here, the sister-in-law probably won't back down. I don't need to be considerate to such a person anymore. Though I had been silently observing the sister-in-law who acted without any regard. At this point, I played an undeniable audio proof. Ahaha. Take good care of my kids, okay? I hope something terrible happens to you and your unborn child. The sister-in-law's boisterous laugh can be heard from the voice recorder I pulled out. That's not my voice. This is a trap set up by Emily. Oh, should I show the video too then? I pressed the play button on my phone. Displayed on the screen were various malicious acts committed by the sister-in-law. This is when you tried to push me down the stairs. And then this is when you're trying to knock down the heavy bookshelf towards me. When did you get such a thing? Actually, feeling my life was in danger due to the persistent harassment from my sister-in-law, I had installed surveillance cameras and transferred the recorded data to my mobile phone so I could view them anytime. Catherine, what kind of person are you? No, it's not like that, Mom. There's enough evidence here. Stop making excuses. The sister-in-law, confronted in a strong tone by the mother-in-law, glared at me fiercely. It's all because you're pregnant with a boy. If you give birth to an heir, my share of the inheritance will decrease, won't it? What? You targeted my child's life for such a reason? I was the first to give birth to a boy. So, I have the right to receive everything. Everyone couldn't close their open mouths at the sister-in-law's absurd logic. Even if your child had the right to inherit, you yourself will lose that right after seeing this, won't you? I don't understand what you mean. I'll make you understand right away. Then, I hit the sister-in-law with the final video. Hello, hey, darling. I want to go on a trip soon. I'm so tired of my husband. I want to be with you forever. The video showed the sister-in-law flirting on the phone with her lover. The brother-in-law, peering at the screen, gradually turned into a demon-like expression. What on earth is this? No, this is... Not only did you do terrible things to Emily and forced her to take care of the children, but you also went on a cheating trip. I'm divorcing you. Leave the kids and get out of here right away. Suddenly, the sister-in-law screamed in a way I had never heard before, and clung to the brother-in-law. Wait a minute. If I get divorced, I won't inherit even 1 penny, will I? Are you still talking about money even now? The sister-in-law, forcibly shaken off by the brother-in-law, turned towards me this time. Emily, please stop being mean to me anymore. What are you saying? This is the malice you've shown me, isn't it? No, it's already beyond that. I'm submitting this to the police. Why the police? You targeted me and my unborn child, didn't you? Please spare me from the police. I was wrong. I apologize, like this double exclamation mark. The sister-in-law clung desperately to my feet with her face, where the makeup was terribly ruined by tears. But there was no trace of intent to forgive her in me. I immediately submitted a damage report and the evidence data to the police. Catherine, my sister-in-law, ended up with a criminal record for trying to inflict injuries on me. Afterwards, Catherine and her husband got divorced. Testimonies from neighbors revealed that Catherine rarely took care of her own children. So their father, my brother-in-law, got custody. The brother-in-law demanded $2 million in consolation money and a monthly child support of $50,000 from Catherine, and also sought a payment of $2 million in consolation money from her affair partner. Eventually, Catherine was abandoned by her lover and disowned by her own family. Now, she lives in a rundown apartment. She works a night job and continues to pay the consolation money and child support while getting by. Catherine's children are being cared for by everyone, cooperatively by their grandparents, uncle, and my husband. As the family approaches them with love, their honesty and kindness have begun to shine, though they are mischievous. They cherish my child like a real sibling, and I am very happy now.
Strangers don't need to come to the funeral. On the night of the wake after the kind father-in-law passed away, the mother-in-law, who had thrown all the care of the father-in-law onto us, said that. What? Yes, it's a family ceremony, so outsiders should refrain. Besides, the $300 million inheritance from Dad is ours. Catherine said that, and my husband was surprised and asked back, "What are you and sis talking about? It's Dad's funeral, and $300 million." Then the mother-in-law said, looking annoyed, "I won't give the inheritance to a youngest child like you. You should renounce your inheritance claim. You can't just decide that on your own. I don't care about the inheritance anyway," Tom said, and I followed up with a tearful voice. "Exactly. Please let us proudly say goodbye to our father-in-law." Then the mother-in-law glared at me. "Why are you an outsider acting like family?" By the way, it seems the nurses said that Dad asked for you in the end. Could it be that you had an affair with my dad? The older brother and sister dramatically showed their disgust. Ew, disgusting! Were you trying to turn Dad to get the inheritance? Tom, you married such a terrible woman. I clenched my fists tightly. They treated Tom and the kind father-in-law horribly, and now suspect an affair between me and the father-in-law. I never knew such terrible people existed. I said calmly, "Understood. We won't attend the funeral." My name is Emily. I'm turning 32 this year. I met my husband Tom when we were in the same college club, and we got married. I work as a civil servant, and Tom works in IT, and we're living happily together. Tom, isn't it about time to bring new clothes for your father? Oh, right. I forgot. Thanks always, Emily. On this day off for both of us, after some shopping, we headed to the hospital where the father-in-law was admitted. Ugh, Tom, Emily. Did you come to see me? The father-in-law, smiling on his private room bed, had a stroke last year, leaving his left side paralyzed. Since then, he's been hospitalized and undergoing rehabilitation. It was pretty cold outside, Dad. Is it so? Make sure you two don't catch a cold. Tom spoke gently. I swapped the clothes and arranged the flowers we brought. Emily, Tom, thank you always for doing this for someone like me. What are you talking about, Dad? Don't worry about it. Yes, just let us know if there's anything you need. As we were having our usual conversation, the door to the room suddenly opened. and the mother-in-law, brother-in-law John, and sister-in-law Catherine burst into the room. The mother-in-law, upon seeing us, remarked sarcastically, "Oh? I thought I heard someone. It's Tom and, what was her name again?" Hearing those words, the brother-in-law and sister-in-law chimed in. "Hey Mom, that's a bit much. Just because he's a leftover, right?" "Right. It's Emily, isn't it?" I looked down without saying a word. We've been married for 3 years, and I've met the mother-in-law several times before. There's no way they don't know my name. "Hey Mom, John, and Catherine, stop being rude to Emily." As my husband spoke in frustration, the mother-in-law dramatically shrugged her shoulders. "It was just a light-hearted joke, you know. Why are you so mad?" "A joke? You always..." He tried to continue, but the mother-in-law interrupted. "Hold on. We're about to have a family discussion. Can you two step out?" "What do you mean family? I'm family too." Despite what my husband said, John gestured dismissively. "Why are you lingering around when you're not wanted? Just get out." The sister-in-law Catherine chimed in with a smirk. "Exactly. This conversation doesn't involve outsiders like you." My husband's face showed his pain as he said to me, "Let's go." I bowed to my distressed father-in-law and left the hospital room with my husband. On the way home, my husband apologized to me. "Emily, I'm so sorry for how my family always acts." I gently nodded in response to my husband's words. "No, the one truly hurt by all of this is you." At my words, my husband gave a weak smile. He was born the youngest of 3 siblings. The mother-in-law had always doted on the older brother and sister, largely neglecting my husband. From what he had told me, she never once attended his school events or sports days when he was a child, while the older siblings, John and Catherine, always received brand new and expensive items. Tom was given hand-me-downs that were worn out, whether they were clothes or toys. From a young age, Tom realized that pleading was pointless, so he gave up. Despite their poor academic performance, John and Catherine were sent to private colleges, while Tom, who was supposed to have had good grades, was told by his mother, "After middle school, get a job. I won't provide for your education." Left with no choice, Tom attended a public high school and a reasonably priced national university, with the help of scholarships, and later secured a job at his current company. When we decided to get married and I visited Tom's family home for the first time, his mother was completely indifferent. "I'm not interested, and you can do whatever you want." Saying so, she didn't even offer us tea. John and Catherine amusingly observed me, making sarcastic remarks. "It's surprising you'd want to marry someone like him, leftovers, huh?" "Yeah, you must really have unique tastes." Tom has always been treated as an unwanted family member, like leftovers. Even after getting married, this treatment didn't change. We were the only ones not invited to family weddings and ceremonies. Because of this, relatives later scolded us, asking, "Why didn't you attend?" "Still, only my dad has always been on my side," Tom said, narrowing his eyes. When Tom was young, his father was often away from home due to his job assignments. However, during occasions like Christmas or birthdays, even if Tom didn't receive a gift from his mother. His father always made sure to prepare something for him. Despite his busy schedule, his father even took days off from work to attend Tom's graduation. When Tom and I were getting married, only his father was genuinely happy and blessed us. My kind-hearted father-in-law always cared about me too. However, even such a father-in-law is rudely referred to as a convenient ATM by the family, especially his wife. That's why, since he fell ill, we've been the ones taking care of his daily needs and nursing him. Tom, I promise to cherish both you and your father. Upon hearing this, Tom, holding my hand, said, "You've truly been through a lot for us. Thank you." Several months passed. We received a call from the hospital informing us that Tom's father had another stroke. By the time we arrived, it was too late, and his father had passed away. Dad! Dad! I wish I had shown you more gratitude and love. Seeing his father's peaceful face in eternal rest, Tom broke down and cried out loud. I too shed tears, recalling the kind words and smiles of my father-in-law. While Tom's mother, brother, and sister were also present, they didn't seem particularly saddened. In fact, they oddly appeared to be in good spirits. "It's a hassle, so arrange the funeral for me." Saying so, Tom's mother handed a funeral brochure to Tom and quickly returned home. We were in shock, but we knew we had to give Tom's father a proper send-off. We immediately contacted the funeral home and arranged the wake and funeral. A few days later, after the wake was conducted and the visitors had left, I approached Tom's mother, who was dressed in mourning clothes, about the arrangements for tomorrow's funeral. "Oh, don't worry about the arrangements. Just ask the funeral director." And then, what she said next was utterly shocking. "You outsiders don't need to come to the funeral." What? Huh? Tom and I both exclaimed in disbelief at the same time. Then, the brother-in-law next to the mother-in-law started to speak, grinning mischievously. "Thanks for the care up till now, but your role's over, so don't come to the funeral, alright?" "What do you mean?" As I was flustered, the mother-in-law continued. "Exactly what I said. It's a family funeral, so outsiders should refrain from attending. And the inheritance of $300 million is ours." My husband, shocked, responded, "Bro, sis, what are you saying? It's Dad's funeral, and $300 million? The mother-in-law then said, seemingly annoyed, "Your father was wealthy from the start and was into stocks, so he left a large inheritance. But I won't give any of it to the youngest like you. You should renounce your inheritance." "How can you? I don't care about the inheritance." "Exactly. Please let us properly say goodbye to father-in-law." Then the mother-in-law glared at me. "Why are you an outsider acting like family? I heard from a nurse that he called for you at the end." "That's because I was always taking care of him." However, Tom's brother and sister mockingly showed disgust. "Were you having an affair with my dad?" "Ew, disgusting! Were you trying to seduce her father to his inheritance?" "Tom, you married such a scandalous woman." "Stop joking around. Emily is..." My husband began to speak with an angry tremble in his voice. But the mother-in-law quickly interrupted him. A woman who would have an affair with her father-in-law and a good-for-nothing. Youngest son like you aren't family. Stay away from us forever. I clenched my fists tightly. To mistreat my kind husband and father-in-law, and then to suspect me of having an affair with him. I couldn't believe such horrible people existed. Just as I was about to shout in anger, my husband raised his voice. Enough! How dare you say such things about Emily, who took care of Dad with all her heart? It's okay, Tom. I held my husband back and spoke in a calm tone. We understand your feelings. We won't attend the funeral. My husband continued, his voice shaking. Yes, after being ridiculed this much, I can't think of you all as family anymore. We'll pay our respects at Dad's grave. And so, my husband and I paid our final respect to the father-in-law and left the place. 2 days later, I had received numerous calls on my cell phone from the mother-in-law. When I told my husband, he mentioned he was getting the same calls. There is no need to answer. Let's just ignore it. My husband said that, so I didn't answer any of the calls. However, the calls kept coming incessantly. A week later, just when I was thinking of blocking the number, the mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law showed up at our apartment. What do you want now? As my husband spoke with a hint of annoyance, the mother-in-law ranted in a flustered tone. What do you mean all of your father's inheritance is yours? Then, my husband replied in a calm voice. A lawyer came to us and explained everything. In fact, the day after the funeral, a lawyer had visited us and informed that the father-in-law had left a will bequeathing all of his assets to us. That's why we had started the procedures to claim the inheritance. You all, being family, probably assumed you'd naturally inherit something, right? Normally, you'd at least get a mandatory share, wouldn't you? Exactly. But the lawyer said you guys are the only ones eligible for inheritance. And everything goes to Tom. My husband and I calmly addressed the fuming mother-in-law. Of course, the father-in-law had requested a lawyer to disinherit you, all while he was still alive. If you're disinherited, you won't even get the mandatory portion. Then, the brother-in-law angrily lunged at my husband, spitting as he spoke. That's it! I can't accept this disinheritance thing! Then, my husband responded with an angry tone. John, didn't you used to say useless things to our father who was in need of care, like how he should be done away with quickly? Our father documented everything while he was alive. Moreover, while our father could move, didn't you misuse his bank deposits for your own sake? Isn't that a clear reason for disinheritance? How do you two even know about that? Our father-in-law left a letter with the lawyer for us. Everything was written in there. I also spoke up with a determined attitude. Then, the sister-in-law yelled out, I need money too! It's ridiculous for you two to take everything! Yet, my husband glared at her. Catherine, don't you have a habit of getting into debt? On the day when you told us to leave the loom to discuss family matters, didn't you force Dad to give you money to repay your debts? Putting debts onto someone else is also a reason for disinheritance, isn't it? As my husband and I spoke, the sister-in-law was left speechless. Then, The mother-in-law, losing her patience, screamed with a flushed face. "How dare you, the youngest and the outsider, act so arrogantly? Enough of this!" My husband sighed deeply before speaking. "The one who did the worst is you, isn't it, Mom? While Dad was working away from home, you had an affair for years, didn't you?" "Oh, what are you—" Both the brother-in-law and sister-in-law, who seemingly were unaware of this, stared at the mother-in-law in disbelief. I once again spoke calmly. Our father-in-law collected evidence and arranged for it to be delivered to us and the lawyer. My husband continued speaking, looking at the mother-in-law with disdain. "Even if a spouse has had an affair for many years, they can be disinherited. Didn't you know? You suspected an affair between me and our father-in-law, probably because you yourself were having an affair, right?" As we spoke, the color drained from the mother-in-law's face, turning it pale blue. "All three of you have done terrible things to our father. It's too late to change anything now." Speaking sternly, my husband was interrupted when the brother-in-law suddenly prostrated himself, begging desperately. "Tom, I'm begging you, share the inheritance. I need money because my business failed." The sister-in-law, her face messy with tears and snot, clung to my husband's arm, following her brother's lead. "I apologize for everything. If my debt is discovered, I'll get divorced." My husband looked down at them, speaking coldly. "We will never forget what you've done to us. We will never forgive you." The mother-in-law stomped her feet and screamed in frustration. "How are we supposed to live from now on? We're family, right? Help us!" My husband and I exchanged glances and spoke almost in unison. "Family, you say? Who was it that said outsiders shouldn't come to the funeral? There's no way we're helping you. Figure it out on your own." As my husband spoke, we shut them out, but the three of them kept shouting from outside. However, when the property manager, alerted by the commotion, came over, the three of them sheepishly left. After they left and everything became quiet, my husband let out a deep sigh. As I went to comfort him, he silently gripped my hand. Shortly after, we received all of our father-in-law's inheritance and moved to ensure we wouldn't be ambushed again. We also added a lock to our family's register. I heard this from relatives, but it seems that after that incident, the brother-in-law begged family members to lend him money. When he was refused, he apparently borrowed from loan sharks. He's now reportedly being chased by some very unsavory individuals. The sister-in-law's husband found out about her debt habits and divorced her. Now, she's working in a nightclub and trying to repay her debts. The mother-in-law, it seems, was abandoned by her lover, who was apparently only interested in her for money. She aged considerably since then. The three of them now live in a rundown, 6-mat apartment, struggling to fend off hunger. But their situation is no longer our concern. On the other hand, a lovely baby boy was born to us. Now free from all troubles, my husband dotes on our son, embodying the role of a loving father. We hope to continue living happily, pouring the kindness our father-in-law showed us into our son.
Even a couple who have been together for 40 years might not understand everything about each other. It's my lucky day when my husband, of all days on his retirement, decides to bring up divorce. My name is Emily, and I'm 65 years old. I married my husband when I was 25. We were colleagues at the same company back then, and we've been married for 40 years now. Our only daughter, Catherine, is 35 years old. She got married 8 years ago and has since moved out to start her own family. So it's just the two of us living together now. The life of an old couple is mostly monotonous and repetitive, but I think it's not bad to spend each day with small joys. My husband will be retiring soon, and I hope we can enjoy a peaceful life together in our old age. That's what I had hoped for. Although my husband can be a bit dominant, he's a gentle person and speaks very little. We've been married for 40 years. I feel I have played my role as a supportive wife, always following my husband's lead. I quit my job after marrying him and lived modestly as a housewife. At that time, it was the norm, and I never felt anything strange about this life continuing on. Following and trusting my husband was natural for me, almost like a duty. It was purely because I loved him. Perhaps that's why I noticed. I started seeing my husband change over time. I first felt a slight unease on a particular holiday. My husband left early in the morning without saying a word to me. "Oh, are you going out?" Yes. "So early? Do you have an appointment or something?" "No, just going for a walk." "I see. What about breakfast? I've prepared it." "I don't need it. I'll be back late." For some reason, my husband seemed in a hurry and left the house quickly. He was someone who would usually watch movies or read at home during holidays. Leaving the house dressed up decently at 8 in the morning? What on earth was going on? But maybe he just wanted a change of pace and decided to go out alone. At that time, I convinced myself to believe in him. However, from then on, my husband frequently went out on holidays and often didn't return until late at night. He would leave early in the morning and not return until past midnight. Even after the last trains had long since stopped running, I wondered where he was and what he was doing. "Going out again today? It's been frequent recently." "Yeah. Will you be late again? What about dinner?" "I don't need it." My husband's replies were curt. Moreover, day by day, he started to become colder towards me. "Hey, what's with this lousy meal?" "Lousy? I made your favorite mixed rice, sauteed burdock root, and simmered golden ice snapper. Do you really think a meal this plain can give me energy after a tiring day?" "It's the same as always. If you want something specific, just tell me and I'll make it." "That's not the point. You should be able to guess what I want to eat." He had never raised his voice like that before. In a bad mood, my husband left without touching the meal I prepared and went out to eat alone. Many were the days when I sat alone at the dinner table, tears streaming down my cheeks. There were other signs of change in my husband. "I'll be on a business trip next week." "A business trip? You've never had one before. It's sudden." "Stop it! Don't nag about my work." "I didn't mean it like that. I just meant it's unusual, that's all." "What do you know about my job? Enough! I'm going to sleep." Saying that, he turned away like a child and headed to the bathroom. Really, there was no need for him to say it like that. After that, my husband avoided eye contact and our conversations as a couple dwindled. I tried to communicate with him multiple times, serving him his favorite dishes or gifting him novels I thought he'd like, but to no avail. "Hey, what's been going on with you lately? You've been acting different. Being with you has become a pain for me. Those softly spoken words from my husband stung sharply, and thus the gap between my husband and me grew wider and wider. Then, one day, "Hello? Oh, Catherine! How have you been?" I received a rare call from my daughter. "Hey, this might sound odd, but how have you and Dad been lately?" There was a serious tone in my daughter's voice. "Why bring that up all of a sudden?" "Well, it's a bit difficult to say, but Tom saw Dad walking with a young woman." Tom is Catherine's husband. Come to think of it, his workplace is near my husband's. Has there been any change in Dad recently? I felt pained recalling my husband's recent behavior. Until now, even if he was dominant at home, he wasn't the type to be harsh or say sarcastic things to me. But in the past few months, he seemed like a completely different person, unable to bear my husband's recent words and attitude. I confided everything to my daughter. "That's terrible. If you were troubled, you should have told me sooner." I didn't want to show my child the discord between our parents. "What are you saying? If you keep shouldering this alone, this stress will knock you down." Her words jolted me. Lately, I haven't been sleeping well at night, and my appetite has diminished. The stress had already taken its toll on me. "Catherine, thank you. Don't mention it. More importantly, Dad seems very suspicious. Should we investigate?" Upon Catherine's suggestion, I requested a private detective to investigate my husband. I prayed from the depths of my heart. Please let it be my misunderstanding. Please let my husband not betray me. However, the results were damningly clear. My husband had an affair with a woman 30 years younger than himself. They met at a bar he visited for social reasons. He seemed to have started dating the hostess working there about 3 months ago. This timeline coincides with when I started noticing changes in him. I see. So this was the reason. Engaging in adultery with a woman the same age as our daughter? I could only see my husband as a repulsive creature now. He hurts and belittles others, yet he indulges in his pleasures. I can't forgive him. To betray the wife he'd been with for 40 years? My anger surged more than my tears. And so, the fuse for my retaliation was lit. First, I diligently gathered evidence before filing for divorce. With the solid evidence, he won't be able to talk his way out. Now, why not demand his property for emotional distress as well? Thinking this way gave me a bit of energy. Yes, I should divorce such a man quickly and enjoy my freedom on my own. Behind the scenes, I had consulted with a lawyer and was having documents prepared for divorce proceedings and claims for sharing his property when my husband's retirement date approached. Perhaps I should appreciate his years of service on his retirement day. However, somewhere inside of me, I couldn't genuinely say, "Thank you for your hard work." I certainly am grateful for how he supported me financially over the years, but how could I show compassion for a husband who betrayed the wife who stood by him for 40 years? When I confided in my daughter about my dilemma, she suggested, why not hand him the divorce papers on his retirement day? That would surely give you closure. Maybe that's the fitting way to do it. Can I be present during that conversation? Huh? You too, Catherine? Why? Why? Obviously, because I can't forgive that. You're not alone, Mom. Catherine, thank you. And so, with my daughter by my side, I decided to discuss divorce with my husband on the day of his retirement. On the day of his retirement, he briefly made some rounds of greeting and returned home by noon. I couldn't help but notice his overly confident and accomplished demeanor. "Ah, Catherine's here?" "Yes," Catherine responded curtly to her father. Yet Tom seemed unfazed by this and immediately said to me upon his return, "Emily, we need to talk." "All right, what is it?" It had been a while since we had a proper conversation as husband and wife. A sudden pang of sadness surged through me. What did those 40 years mean to me? "I found someone I love. You're no longer needed. I'll give you $70,000. Leave this house." "Excuse me?" "I'll give you the money. Just get out of my sight. Don't make me repeat myself. I'm going to live here with her, a younger and better woman than you." At this point, our daughter interjected. "Dad, what are you saying?" "It's none of your business. Keep quiet." "Of course it's my business. This isn't something you can decide on your own." The two started to argue. I let out a sigh. Inside, I was silently cheering. The topic I was about to bring up came from him instead. How convenient for me. "Are you saying you want a divorce?" "Yeah, that's right." "Can you explain in detail one more time?" "All right, fine." With that, he began to explain about his affair, how they fell in love, and how they planned to register their marriage as soon as possible after the divorce. It's easier to proceed when he explains it all himself. After listening to everything I said, "Understood. So, you admit to the infidelity." Calling it infidelity sounds so dramatic. Are you jealous at this age? Jealousy has nothing to do with this. You just admitted to having a relationship with another woman while still married, right? All right, let's go with that. Then I will be claiming to share your property for the infidelity. I presented the documents prepared by the lawyer to him, but he seemed surprisingly at ease. "I'll pay whatever amount you want. I'm getting a retirement bonus of $130,000. "Oh, that's impressive, right? I've devoted more than 40 years to the company. It's only natural." So, this was the reason behind his willingness to pay whatever amount. With a windfall of $130,000, one would indeed feel emboldened. "By the way, you'll have to leave this house." "What?" "You see, this house is mine." "What?" Suddenly his expression changed to one of panic. "So, this house was inherited from my parents. Why should I be the one to leave?" It seemed that he had completely forgotten the house was in my name. How can you forget something so important? But he was entirely dumbfounded. "Never mind. I understand about the divorce. I was planning to bring it up myself, so that's fine." Next to the compensation document, I placed a filled-out divorce paper. "No, wait. Please, it was a joke. A joke!" Is this what they call a dad joke? How unamusing. A joke? It's a surprise. I just wanted to surprise you." As he was sweating profusely and trying to cover up, I knew it was too late. "A surprise? Oh, how delightful. So, am I getting a diamond ring next? Or perhaps tickets for a luxury cruise? And it will all be presented with a bouquet, right? Let's see them now, quickly." Well, what about the affair? Weren't you saying she's going to live here with you? Starting tomorrow, a young woman will live here. You'd be so happy. I've never heard such a surprise." "Oh, that was a lie too. You know it was a joke, right? We've been together for 40 years. I couldn't stand his insincerity any longer. Don't take me lightly. I presented all the evidence of his infidelity. Photos of him and the woman getting cozy in public. The two of them entering a hotel, their arms entwined, walking happily together. The pictures said it all. The undeniable truth was there, and Tom had no choice but to accept it. What is this? How did you... You think a wife of 40 years wouldn't notice a change in her husband? Tom fell silent at my words. Perhaps the weight of the word 40 years dawned on him. How did you know? We're married. It's impossible for me not to notice. I've trusted and stood by you for 40 years, but it seems you never really saw me. As I spoke those words, I felt a sting deep within my chest. I'll grant you a divorce, so leave this house right now. It's mine after all. Right now? Yes, I'm not so kind as to let another person live here, especially not a traitor. Wait, isn't it a bit rash to decide on a divorce just like that? What are you talking about? You were the one who brought it up first, weren't you? That's... well, I don't want to complicate things any further. Can you sign quickly? I tapped on the table where the divorce papers lay. Seeing my resolute expression, he probably realized there was no way out. As my daughter and I watched, he silently filled out the divorce papers. How could someone forget that the house they live in is under their wife's name? Could he possibly be going senile? Well, it doesn't matter anymore. After that, we officially divorced. I received the standard amount for alimony, and we properly divided our joint assets, including his retirement pay. The reason I waited until his retirement date to get a divorce was this. I ended up getting a substantial amount of money from the alimony and the division of our shared assets. After kicking out my husband, I had our house demolished and sold the land. The location was great, so a real estate agent was eager to buy it at a good price. Even after deducting the demolition costs, I received a significant amount of money. Perhaps my husband was aware of the market value of this land too. However, he seemed to have overlooked the crucial fact that the house and land were under my name. I changed my mobile number and completely severed ties with my husband. I hope he, now over 65 and alone, can find a place to live without a guarantor, but it's no longer my concern. However, he reached out to our daughter. Hey, Catherine, where's your mother living now? Do you know what she's up to? Why should I tell you? Don't be like that. I'm in trouble right now. Here's what he had to say. After the divorce and struggling to find a place to live, his mistress apparently suggested buying an apartment. Introduced by her to a real estate agent, he was able to purchase 2 apartments at a price much lower than the market value. One for him to live in and the other to rent out for rental income. The salesperson pushed him, saying, "You can get your initial investment back in 5 years, and this room will always be rented out. It won't be vacant. The discounted price is only during this campaign." With that, he decided to invest all of his retirement money into purchasing it. That salesman intended to deceive me from the start. The area has bad security, the train station is far, the roads are narrow and unpopular. There are many vacant rooms, and since the building is old, maintenance costs a lot. It was a shoddy property that no one wanted to buy. Given that he was introduced by his mistress, it's likely she was in cahoots with the salesman. I have no retirement money left, and even if I try to sell this property, it won't sell. He said this with a voice on the verge of tears. Oh, really? Well, Mom is living a carefree life overseas. I wonder if she'll ever come back to Japan. Please stop getting involved with her. She's finally enjoying her life. It's your own doing, right? What goes around comes around. Seeing you makes me realize that I shouldn't do bad things. Goodbye. Catherine said this and hung up the phone. You really went all out with what you said, didn't you? Telling him I'm overseas was a lie. I had to say at least that much to feel satisfied. He was always saying whatever he wanted, and it was unbearable. Now, I don't think he'll contact us anymore. Thank you. I feel relieved. You're welcome. My daughter said that and poured tea into my empty cup. Mom, what are you going to do now? I intend to live freely on my own. Why don't you come live with us? As we were talking, my daughter's husband made such an offer. It's okay. Don't worry about me. Why not, Mom? My husband is even suggesting it himself. Exactly. I'm not saying this out of obligation, but I don't want to intrude on a young couple's life. What are you talking about? There's no need for hesitation between family. My daughter tightly held my hand. I thought I had long since run out of tears, but I realized they were streaming down my cheeks. Thank you. You're still young, Mom. You need to enjoy the rest of your life. The next chapter of my life had just begun. The kindness of my daughter and son-in-law touched me deeply, warming my heart ever so slightly. Those old pests who don't do housework should just leave, you know? The eldest son's wife tried to drive us out of the house with that remark. We had reached our limit and made a decision. So, shall we move out now? Because my husband said that, I agreed too. The next day, as we were relaxing in a hotel, we received a barrage of calls from the eldest son's wife. But we no longer felt obliged to pick up. It kept ringing, which was annoying, so I blocked the calls. My name is Emily, a 58-year-old housewife. I've been married to my husband for 34 years. We have a son and a daughter, both of whom have grown up and are now working professionals. Our daughter is 30 and our son is 27. Our daughter is already married, has her own family, and is busy raising a 3-year-old boy. She brings our grandson to visit regularly, and he's so adorable, providing us with much joy. On the other hand, our son Tom had been working hard since graduating from college, but due to workplace harassment from his boss, he quit his job and returned to our home for a while. He took about a year off for recovery and is currently working part-time. We considered letting him live alone, but we were worried he might relapse. And even though he's part-timing, we hope he can save up for the future, so we allow him to live at home. Our eldest son looked really distressed when he was suffering from the harassment, but now he's smiling more, and both my husband and I are relieved. He looks so happy playing with the nephew our daughter brings over. We think he'll be a great father when he has his own children. As I was thinking about all this, our eldest son informed us that he was offered a full-time position at his part-time job. Well, the salary isn't much different from when I was part-timing, but the benefits are much better. That's good to hear. Don't push yourself too hard. Even if you become a full-time employee, you'll continue to live here, right? Well, actually, I have a girlfriend and we're thinking of moving in together. What? We were shocked as our eldest son suddenly mentioned this. He had never talked about having a girlfriend before. Is that so? If that's what you want, I think it's fine. Yeah, Tom should be okay now. He's only 27 and this is probably the most enjoyable time of his life, so he should enjoy both love and work. Thank you, Dad and Mom. And so our eldest son moved out of our home and started living with his girlfriend. Since then, he visits us regularly and always seems happy, sharing stories of his life with her. We were happy to see him, who had been through a lot, finally find happiness. And after 2 years of dating, he decided to marry her. Both my husband and I were overjoyed when we heard the news of their marriage. They told us they would soon come to give their formal marriage greetings, so we eagerly awaited the chance to meet our son's fiancée. A week after hearing about the engagement, our eldest son came with his fiancée. Nice to meet you, my name is Catherine. Catherine had a refined aura about her and was truly charming. Thank you for coming. We have some delicious snacks. Let's all enjoy them together. Wow, thank you so much. She had a wonderful smile and gave a bright, positive impression. We all chatted happily and asked the couple various questions about their relationship. Tom and Catherine met at work, and apparently they were colleagues who joined the company at the same time. We were of the same age and joined the company at the same time, so I felt a connection and we talked a lot. We started dating quickly, and when I became a full-time employee, that became the trigger for us to move in together. Why did you decide to get married? I think a big reason is that I wanted to get married in my 20s. I also want children. Tom always shows me pictures of his nephew, you know. Oh, really? The discussion about the marriage proceeded in a friendly atmosphere. Catherine seemed like a good person, and I felt relieved. After Tom and Catherine left, I talked to my husband, and he also had a good impression of her. However, we never imagined at that time that she might be hiding an unthinkable true nature. Later on, after both families met, Tom and Catherine got married. While we were still immersed in the afterglow of the wedding ceremony, we heard some concerning news. It was about Catherine quitting her job. According to Tom, even though he became a full-time employee, his salary wasn't much different from when he was a part-timer. So it would probably be challenging to support the living expenses for two adults with that salary. However, it seemed that becoming a full-time housewife was Catherine's dream. Hearing this from Tom, neither my husband nor I felt we could say much against it. Well, if both of you are okay with it, then it's fine, but Tom, just make sure you don't overdo it, okay? Remember, you once suffered mentally from pushing yourself too hard. I know, I'll make sure to consult if anything happens. We were quite concerned, but we decided to trust our eldest son for the time being. A year has passed since then. Our eldest son would return home for the Obon festival and New Year holidays, but his wife never came. My husband and I didn't want to force her to come, but we wished she would show up with our son at least once. According to our eldest son, his wife prioritizes going to her own parents' home and shows no intention of visiting us. Is she taking care of the household properly? Yeah, well, but most of the meals are hastily prepared. I'm grateful that she prepares something, but I was a bit taken aback when I saw many empty boxes from store-bought side dishes in the trash. What's more, she hides it and says, I worked hard and cooked a lot today. So I couldn't point out that she just transferred the store-bought side dishes to plates. Oh, is that so? If it's just store-bought side dishes, I'd be concerned about the salt content, and it would also be more expensive. It's not like your salary has increased or anything, right? No, not really. I'm doing overtime to try and increase it a bit. Then wouldn't it become as challenging as it was in the past? No, but unlike before, I don't have any mean superiors, and it's a good work environment, so I guess that's okay. Though continuous overtime does physically drain me. I see. My husband and I were very worried. Could you at least ask her to show her face here once? I want to have a proper conversation with her. Understood. I'll bring her next time. About 2 weeks later, Tom brought Catherine home. It had been more than a year since we last met her at their wedding. My husband and I were surprised to see Catherine after such a long time. She looked completely different from the modest demeanor she had before marriage, with brightly dyed hair and flashy makeup. Moreover, her clothes were flashy and seemed expensive. I wondered where they were getting that kind of money. It's been a while, Catherine. Yes, long time no see. Catherine seemed less friendly than before. Thank you for coming today. It's nothing. We all had a conversation while eating the meal I prepared. How's married life? It's been a year. Any challenges? Not really. Well, I wish Tom would earn a bit more though. Both my husband and I frowned upon hearing such a remark from Catherine right off the bat. Catherine, you're young, so I think it would be good if you could work and contribute to the income too. When I said that, Catherine sighed. I got married because I wanted to be a full-time housewife, and it's not like I'm living extravagantly or anything. Is that so? Those clothes of yours look expensive though. It's not that much really. I see. Although she said so, she didn't disclose the actual price. In the end, we couldn't get much information and she didn't seem to consider our opinions. And then Tom and Catherine left. A few months later, we received a call from Tom. Hello, Tom. It's been a while. Have you been well since then? Sorry, Mom. I've been feeling a bit under the weather. What? Are you okay? Turns out I need to be hospitalized. Shockingly, Tom had become malnourished and needed hospitalization. When my husband and I saw him, after a long time, he looked extremely frail and pale. How did this happen? The thing is, Catherine lost money in investments and we got into debt. To make up for that, I worked long overtime hours daily and it affected my health. Because the debt was significant, Catherine reduced the amount of food we had. Oh, no! I can't believe Tom and Catherine's situation has gotten this bad in just a few months. Hi, mother-in-law, father-in-law. Catherine. Catherine seemed to have left the room briefly and returned shortly after we arrived for the visit. But she didn't have the flashy appearance from before. Her hair was back to black and her clothes were subdued. You've been through a lot. I'm sorry I made Tom go through so much. Catherine seems genuinely remorseful. What are you going to do now? If you keep pushing yourself to the point of hospitalization, you might eventually lose your life. Mom, Dad, I have a favor to ask. Can we live with you at home until we finish repaying the debt? I also humbly ask this of you. Tom, Catherine, my husband and I had no other option. Tom's life was at risk, so we permitted them to live with us, and they began living together after Tom was discharged from the hospital. Tom made sure not to overwork and came home on time every day, and Catherine began working part-time to repay the debt. However, it seemed like it would take a long time to repay the debt completely. This was because the debt Catherine had accumulated amounted to $33,000. Hearing that figure, my husband and I were shocked. It would probably be difficult for just Tom and Catherine to repay the debt. Therefore, we decided to give them $2,500 every month to help with the repayments. This way, they could repay it in about 2 years, and we hoped they would save up some money during that time. However, we would later realize that this was a mistake on our part. About 2 months after giving money to Tom and Catherine quit her part-time job first. Huh? What happened, Catherine? Weren't you supposed to be at your part-time job today? I quit. It was kind of tiring. What? Catherine, my son's wife, would just laze around at home all the time. When I mentioned this to Tom, he seemed very awkward about it. I've tried talking to her about it. She says she feels sick, but she told me she'd try to save money in exchange and ask for my understanding. You're kidding. My husband and I were not convinced. But if we kick them out now, Tom would have a hard time again. However, Catherine became more and more brazen, using a lot of the groceries we had stoked up, eating snacks on her own, and not listening when I admonished her. Amidst all this, I fell down the stairs and hurt my back. I needed regular doctor visits, making me unable to do household chores. Catherine, I'm sorry to ask, but could you help with the housework? See, it's a good thing I've been staying at home, isn't it? Catherine said with a tone implying she was doing us a favor. Housework is so tedious. It's such a hassle with an old lady around who doesn't do anything. Throughout the day, she kept saying such things, pushing me to my mental limits. Catherine, it seems like you're saying some harsh things to my wife. She's hurt her back and can't do household chores, so please don't be too hard on her. My husband spoke to Catherine in that manner, concerned about me. But Catherine lashed out at my husband too. You will be retiring soon and will be home all the time, right? Yet he doesn't do any housework, does he? You lecture me. even though you don't do anything around the house. Could you please not? By the way, this house will eventually become Tom's, won't it? So why don't you leave already? What? I'm saying old folks who don't do chores should get out. Catherine tried to kick us out of our own house. We had reached our limit and made a decision. Let's move out right now then. When my husband said that, I agreed. We quickly started packing our things. Just then, Tom, who had finished his work, came home. What? Mom, what are you guys doing? We're leaving this place. Well, what do you mean? Asked Catherine. Catherine, what's going on? I just said that since you all blame me, those who don't do chores should leave. What are you talking about? This is my parents' house. But eventually it will be your house, right? So it's okay if just the two of us live here, isn't it? Well, what are you saying? Catherine kept spouting nonsensical arguments, and the conversation wasn't getting anywhere. My husband and I didn't want to deal with her anymore. So we packed up some essentials and left the house. We rented a room in a business hotel and decided to spend some quality time together, planning to search for a new place tomorrow. The next day, as we were relaxing in the hotel, we received numerous calls from Catherine. Why is she calling us so much? Isn't it the beginning of the month today? Oh, that makes sense. The start of the month is when we usually give money to Tom and Catherine. She probably called to remind us about it, but we no longer felt obligated to do so. I adjusted some settings on my smartphone and put it in my bag. It suddenly stopped ringing. I got tired of it ringing constantly, so I blocked her. Hearing this, my husband laughed. Should we go look for a room then? Yes, let's. We had actually been planning to sell that house soon anyway. The house was quite old, and we had been considering moving to a more manageable sized apartment suitable for the two of us in our retirement years. All that happened was that the timing got accelerated because of Catherine. We found a nice apartment near where our eldest daughter's family lived. After viewing the place and finding it very comfortable, we quickly signed a contract. We then contacted Tom at a time when Catherine wasn't around and went to retrieve our remaining belongings. During this, we had a proper conversation with Tom. We informed him about our decision to sell the house and that we wouldn't be involved with Catherine anymore. We also told him that we couldn't provide financial support and that if he didn't want to face further hardships, he should consider divorcing Catherine. Tom seemed to have finally made up his mind due to this incident and seemed determined to break up with Catherine. He packed his things and left the house with us. For now, he stored his stuff in our new place and planned to rent a room for himself. Apparently, Catherine found the divorce papers we left in the empty house, and she bombarded Tom with angry calls. When he answered, he told her, "I don't want to trouble my parents any further, and I don't want to suffer because of your debts." It seems he informed her about his decision to get a divorce. After that, he hired a lawyer and initiated divorce proceedings. Catherine couldn't afford the legal fees, so she reluctantly agreed to the divorce. Of course, since the house was up for sale, we asked Catherine to leave immediately. However, she made another mess afterward. It seems she returned to her parents' home and lied to them. Believing her, her parents confronted Tom at his workplace. He calmly explained the reasons for the divorce and her debt issues. He also revealed that we had been giving her $2,500 monthly to help with her debts. Her parents, shocked and ashamed, apologized to Tom and later contacted us to apologize as well. We later met them in person and they returned the money we had given over the months. We will keep an eye on our good-for-nothing daughter and make sure she repays her debts. I deeply apologize for the disgraceful actions. The parents apologized sincerely. We felt sorry that such diligent parents raised such a child, but we were truly relieved that we got our money back. Catherine seems to be working from dawn to dusk under the watchful eyes of her parents to repay the debts. Now that Tom is free from debt, he has rented a place for himself and started living alone. He's been working hard and he recently got a promotion. My husband and I are living comfortably in our new home, and our eldest daughter, who lives nearby, often brings her children over for visits. We are much closer to our eldest daughter's family than before, and the thought of watching our grandchildren grow up right before our eyes fills us with joy. We hope to live happy days ahead, maintaining close ties with our family.